Almost 10 minutes early. Me? Early? No. If you know me, you know that usually I'm waiting here to go live or I'm late. It's one or the other, right? So, hi. We are in, I can't tell if you can see me well. Hopefully you can, because it's really, really light. Okay, good. That's good. Let me put on live chat. I'm going early because I'm here waiting, and I hate sitting here waiting to go live. It drives me crazy. And so that gives me a minute to say hello to people and see what's going on. Hi, Lori. We are in Las Vegas now. So we had a week off where, oh God, terrible. Ooh, that is nasty. How did I do that? Go backwards. No, there. Okay. Whew. Hi, Steven. That was horrible. Hi, Nadine. I might have to take this off. It's super warm out here right now. But then I'll get cold and put it back on, I'm sure. Okay, so we are in Las Vegas. We had a week off. I did not do book club last week because we were traveling last week. And so we are here in Las Vegas now. Hi, Kim. Hi, Raven. So we will be here. Shit, we leave Wednesday again. God damn it. Because we got here on a Wednesday, we leave on a Wednesday again. This is annoying me. Why is it that it seems to be happening? All right, well, I have to think about it because I just realized that again. Maybe we'll do it the day before or something. God, I freaking hate that. I don't like scheduling, but it's hard when we're out here and, you know, the travel day comes when the travel day comes. We don't pick the day we travel, but it's going to end up being on Wednesday unless we change it. Actually, it should be okay after this one because we're not getting to the next place on a Wednesday. We're traveling for quite a while, like 4 days or something before we get to the next place. But anyways, okay. So good thing I'm early, right? See, this is why I have to work this shit out. Yes, so we are in Vegas. It's super noisy here, just so you know. I was gonna maybe do it inside, but then I hate doing it inside because then I have to ask my dad and Peter to like be quieter and stuff, and or just you guys have to listen to whatever they're watching on TV. Or so if I can do it outside, I like to do it outside, especially now because, you know, I don't have to worry about it getting dark because now we're on the West Coast, and so it's earlier and earlier. Hopefully you guys figured out the time change with me. I know for a while it was not listed at the right time, and it was super weird. Like, we're on Pacific time now, but we were traveling when the time I don't know. It totally confused me, and poor Steven has had to try to answer all my questions. Like, okay, is it still the same time? Where are we? What are we? And Steven's time changes until next week, so Mama is going crazy. But we're here for this week. I have to think about if I want to go on next Tuesday. Or if we want to do 2 weeks again. What did you guys mind the 2 weeks? Do you want to? I guess part of it will depend on this one, right? How hard it is to do so many chapters at once. I did start to break down how many chapters a week, at least for the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 videos. So for the next 5 videos, we know how many chapters, unless we're going to combine them. 2 weeks were okay with you? Okay. All right, so we could probably wait 2 weeks, which will bring us to, by the time we come back in another 2 weeks, calendar, oh, not, what, are you kidding me? My computer just signed out for no reason whatsoever. That's really super weird. Okay, calendar. Will bring us to, I'm good with whatever works. Okay with you too, Nadine, good? Okay. Can we go to March, because that's where we are. So 2 weeks would bring us to April 5th, which means we will be in California then. We will be in Palm Springs, California. And we will be there. Can I see it, please? What the hell? I don't know how calendars work, apparently. We will be there until the 23rd. So we should be good for like 3 weeks of videos. So the next video then will be on the 5th. And we're going to do 2 times worth of chapters. So let me explain to you before we start going through these chapters in 2 weeks, so I will miss it, but you can watch. Okay. Gotcha. All right. So I was going to do chapter 12 is a long chapter. So I was going to just do chapter 12 for the next week. Since we're doing 2 weeks, that means we're going to go through 12, 13, 14, and 15. Because 13, 14, and 15 were all kind of short chapters. I'm trying to keep it around 20 pages a week to try to keep it halfway decent. So 13, 14, and 15 were around 20 pages. Chapter 12 alone is 20 pages, or around 20 pages. So we were going to do chapter 12 alone. But because we're going to do 2 weeks, that means it'll be 4 chapters again. We'll be doing 12, 13, 14, and 15. So by the time we come back April 5th, which I cannot believe the next time we'll come back, it will be April. That is so weird. We just passed Ostara, guys. I mean, here we are. It's spring now, really spring. So when we come back, you will want to have read up through chapter 15. Okay? Oh, there's Michelle. Hi, Michelle. So I have to say, while Michelle is on here, Michelle has been telling me that she wanted to send me something. And I was like, what in the world is she sending me? I couldn't figure out what in the world. So she sent me a copy of The Mists of Avalon, the movie. It was a made-for-TV movie. So she sent me The Mists of Avalon, and I'm so excited about it. I honestly have not had a chance to sit down and watch it yet, but this week I'm going to finally get a chance. It's been really weirdly busy. Vegas is weird for one thing. It's constantly moving, which is not like any other place we've been. This is very a different pace. You know, this is like back to New York pace, kind of. So it's been really odd, but I'm so excited. So thank you. Yay. Yes. Okay. So let me do my normal disclaimer. Is it time yet? Yes. It's 4 o'clock now. 4 o'clock now here, which means it's 7 o'clock in New York. I'm so confused. I hate the time change, just so you know. Okay, so let me do my normal disclaimer, which is if you are following along with us, at this point we should have read through chapter 11. So if you have not read through chapter 11, you may not want to be here as we talk about it, because there's going to be major spoilers. Do not blame me if you haven't read through chapter 11 and we tell you something about the book that you did not want to know yet. From here on out, I could say anything up through chapter 11. Okay, so if you don't want to know, now's the time, the last chance you have to hop off, even though we love you. All right, so here we go. So great chapters, right? Do you all agree these were really big chapters? So I was really excited to kind of get to this point in the book, because the book just flies from here. There's so much that happens every time. I'm already on chapter 12. I know it's hard to stop. Now, once we get to this point, it really is hard to stop. because so much is starting to happen. You may want a second watch to have New York time on. You know what I have done is I have it set on my phone, so if I look at my phone, I can figure it out. But it was really weird because we're actually in Pacific time, but it didn't change because Arizona doesn't change the time or something. So I'm still a little bit confused about this time that I'm in right now. But I can look at it. It just I try to understand it, and sometimes that's really not what is happening. All right. So let's start with chapter 8. These have been incredible chapters. These 4 chapters were really great chapters. I'm going to put my jacket back on. I knew I would get chilly. These have been incredible chapters, and so much has happened in these chapters that we have a lot to go through, and so I want to make sure everyone understood. Before we go on into the individual chapters, does anybody have any general questions? Is anybody confused about anything that happened in these 4 chapters that you want me to make sure that I go through? Is there anything at all that, before we start it, that you want me to make sure that I touch on? Because I know it was a lot to read these 4 chapters. Okay, I'm constantly, I know, poor Stephen. I don't know how you do it, Stephen. I really don't. It would boggle my mind. I am not great with all this time shit. Don't mind me, I'm just doing my... Anyway, I'm really not good with all this time shit. So it's hard enough for me to figure out, and I'm in the same country. I don't know how you do it from another country. I keep thinking, well, it'll be good for my West Coast people, but I'm still kind of on New York time, so here I am at 4 o'clock in the afternoon doing this video when most people on the West Coast haven't even gotten out of work yet. So then I feel kind of bad. I don't know. Here we are. The vow of silence. Okay, they did the last chapter. When we get to the last chapter, let me write that just so I know we go through it. Vow of silence. We'll talk a bit about that because that's once we get to Avalon, right? It was so exciting that we finally got to the Isle of Avalon. Here we are, you know, reading about the mists of Avalon, and we haven't seen Avalon really up until now. So, yay, super exciting. Okay, chapter 8. Let's start with chapter 8. Chapter 8 was midwinter. We finally are looking at the fact that Uther is supposed to come for Igraine. We got up to that point last time and we stopped there. Hi, Ember. And then chapter 8 is finally midwinter. Hi, Kay. How are you, honey? Finally, we made it to midwinter, and here is Uther finally is supposed to come for Igraine. She doesn't know how it's going to happen, and so it starts with her basically saying, okay, here we are. Midwinter's here. I don't know how it's going to happen. She's kind of, flighty and up in the air and waiting for him to show up and all this stuff. And so what happens? Yay! Finally, confusion happens at the gate. And she knows that something weird is going on. She goes to the front gate, and there's all these people from Tintagel, and then there's all these people kind of at the entrance to Tintagel. And there's some confusion, and there's some yelling back and forth, and the Merlin steps forward. The Merlin has come with this entourage of people, and starts to say, here we are, and it's okay, and aren't you going to let me through? And it's funny, they have him and Father Columba have a little bit of a back and forth, which cracks me up, because Father Columba is like, oh no, you especially are not supposed to be here, which kills me. Gorlois, son of a bitch, specifically says that the Merlin shouldn't be coming into the castle. Like, are you kidding me? Do you have any idea at that time how powerful the Merlin is to all of Britain? And here he is specifically saying that the Merlin should not be coming into Tintagel. So Father Columba, of course, tries to stop him there. We see, I love, the Merlin says, I am the Merlin of Britain. He says in this resounding voice, stand back, will you deny passage to me? And Father Columba steps forward. I will deny you. My lord, the Duke of Cornwall, has said particularly that you, old sorcerer, are to have no entrance here at any time. Yeah, he tries to banish him with a cross, which was hilarious. And what does Merlin do? Which is, I love it. The soldiers gaped. What do you mean he's not to have any entrance at any time? Are you kidding? Are you stupid? How could you say that to the Merlin? The soldiers gaped, and Igraine, despite her anger, stupid, meddlesome priest, had to admire his courage. I mean, here he stood up against the Merlin. It was not an easy thing to defy the Merlin of all Britain. Father Columba held up the big wooden cross at his belt. In the name of the Christ, I bid you be gone. In God's name, return to the realms of darkness whence you came. So, which, to me, all the vampire shows I've ever seen, that's what comes to my mind is, you know, Buffy and Vampire Diaries, where they hold up the cross, you know. Yeah, this, none shall pass. Yeah, exactly. And the Merlin's laugh raised echoes from the looming walls. Everybody's laughing. Good brother in Christ, he said. Your God and my God are one and the same. Do you really think I will vanish away at your exorcism? Or do you think I am some foul fiend from the darkness? No, not unless you call the falling of God's night the coming of darkness. I come from a land no darker than the summer country. And look, these men with me bear the ring of his lordship, the Duke of Cornwall himself. Look. He was auditioning for The Exorcist. Yes. Which is just hilarious to me because, of course, we all kind of hate Father, hush up, Bubba, Father Columba anyways, and so here he is trying to exorcise the Merlin, which is really funny. But he does say, he says, we carry the ring of your master. So look, here's the ring of your master. And it's funny, there's a little bit of confusion here because he doesn't come out and say, Gorlois is here, right? He says, these men with me bear the ring of his lordship, the Duke of Cornwall himself. So he doesn't come out and say, Gorlois is right here. He says, we bear, the men that are with me, bear the ring of your master, of the Duke of Cornwall. Now let us in, for we are not fiends, but mortal men who are cold and weary. We have ridden for a long way, or must we cross ourselves and repeat a prayer to prove that to you? So then Igraine comes forward, and she's like, what the fuck is going on? What do you mean you have the ring? Right? And so she walks forward, and she says, let me see the ring. Is it truly his ring, or did you forge it? And a voice says, it is truly his ring, Lady Igraine. And a voice she knew, and Igraine, bending her eyes to see the ring in the torchlight, saw familiar hands. Now, she figures out right here and then that it's Uther. How does she know that it's Uther? Does anybody remember how she knows immediately? A little bit of voice. So if you hear a voice that you know is not your husband's, and she's been kind of dreaming of this voice a little bit, but she sees something right then and there that she realizes this is Uther. And that is the tattoos on his arms of the snakes. She gets close enough to him to see the tattoos. Yes, hairy arms and the tattoo with the serpents. Yes, yes, yes. So she sees Uther's hairy arms tattooed there in blue woad, writhed two serpents, one on either wrist. She thought that her knees would give way. He had sworn it, I will come to you at midwinter, and he had come, wearing Gorlois' ring, voice in his hands, and he's taller. Yes, yes, yes. So, my Lord Duke, said Father Columba, impulsively stepping forward, but the Merlin raised his hands to forbid the words. He stops him, because Father Columba says, oh my gosh, it's Gorlois, and comes forward, and the Merlin is like, hush, the messenger is secret. In other words, he's saying to him, don't say it out loud. No one's supposed to know that your master's here, but I'm telling you, here's the ring. And so he he purposely kind of eludes the whole, he never says, your Gorlois is here. He says, the Duke of Cornwall is here. He says, like, the one you've been looking for is here. Gorlois' ring is here. He likes purposefully kind of eludes saying that Gorlois is standing in front of you. And I think that's one of my questions, maybe. Do I want to say this out loud? Confusion. Okay, it's not a question. Good. Confusion occurs. Igraine realizes that it's Uther. Merlin performed a glamour again on Uther that kind of just hides him in the shadow enough so that people think that he's Gorlois. And a glamour, just so you know, at that time, does not really necessarily make him look anything like Gorlois. The glamour spell is for other people just to put a bit of confusion in the air so that other things make the other people come to the conclusion that it's Gorlois, which is why anytime anybody says, oh, Gorlois, the Merlin stops them in their tracks. Like, you'll notice anytime Igraine went to say something and he stops him right there. Father Columba goes to say something, he stops him right there. Like, he doesn't let him know, or doesn't let him even say that this is Gorlois. It's not. He just has done this glamour so that he can get him past the gates. And there's a specific reason for that. The Merlin needs him to be in the in Tintagel and past the gates for a very specific reason. Okay, the second question is, how did Uther get Gorlois' ring? Okay. So we're going to get to that by telling you that, so Igraine takes over and realizes a little bit more what's happening. Okay, there's kind of a little bit of a secret here. And so she says to her staff, okay, you know, my master is, I can't remember how she says it. My master is weary, and so the servants, she sets the servants, here we go. She says to Azada, bring food and some beer to the soldiers here in the hall and to the Lord Merlin. Bring them water for washing, and they all desire. I will speak with my lord in our chambers. So again, does not say Gorlois. Not telling a lie, but not telling the truth, with his sword. That's right. She says, have food and wine sent there at once. So again, she does not say Gorlois at all. She says, my lord. The servants scurry around to get something together, and they go up to the bedchambers of the master, you know, the Duke of Cornwall. And he's brought food and everything. And of course, she's like, how the hell did you get Gorlois' ring? And yes, he cut it off of his hand. He cut the ring right off of his hand. She says, she takes the cloak. She says, my lord king, how came you by Gorlois' ring? And his face hardens. That? I cut it from his hand in battle, but the oathbreaker turned tail and fled. Mistake me not, Igraine. This is super important. I come here by right, not as a thief in the night. The glamour is to save your reputation in the eyes of the world. No more. I would not have my promised wife branded as an adulteress. But I come here by right. The life of Gorlois is forfeit to me. He owes, it's my life to take, because he broke his oath. He held Tintagel as the sworn vassal of Ambrosius. That oath he renewed to me, and now that too is forfeit. Surely you understand this. No king can stand if his sworn men may break oath with impunity and stand under arms against their king. So he's saying, I have a right to take this castle. I have a right to take you as my queen. That's not how I want this, but I have the right to do that because he broke his oath. And so this is perfectly okay. I'm trying to save your reputation because you are technically still married to him, and they do not know as of yet if he is dead or alive, just that he has had fingers cut off and he turned and ran. So big, right? So there is a period of time here where they're talking that Igraine still is kind of afraid of him, and she doesn't fully embrace him, and she feels some sense of guilt that she's in her bedchambers here, of the bedchambers of her and Gorlois with Uther, and she keeps addressing him as king and my lord, and he's like, what the hell's going on? I told you I was coming. You picked me. You said you wanted me. Here I am, and you're kind of treating me like I'm not the person that you knew who I was, right? She's still frightened. What finally relieves Igraine's fear of Uther? That is the next question, is what finally, they go back and forth, they talk back and forth some, and finally her fear is relieved. They talk about what happened when she came to him in the dream, all that kind of stuff, but she's still slightly afraid of him. She still kind of flinches when he touches her face. When he pulls her closer, she flinches. She doesn't feel comfortable with him until this one thing happens that finally is like sets it for her. Oh, okay. This finally, she feels like, I'm in the right place. I'm doing the right thing. This is who I'm supposed to be with. Something happens finally, and it is I swear to you by my crown and by my manhood, you shall be my queen, and I will never take another woman before you. So he senses that she is kind of frightened by him, and he's like, do you not understand what's going on here? You said that you wanted this. I swear I'm not going to take another woman. Did you think I was treating you as a wanton? His voice was trembling, and Igraine knew that he was stricken with fear, the fear of losing her, knowing that he could fear too, knowing that he too was vulnerable. Her own fear was gone. She put her arms around his neck and said clearly, you are my love and my lord and my king, and I will love you as long as I live, and as long thereafter as God wills. So then finally she lets him pull her closer. They make love. It's a wonderful experience. They, have sparks shooting out of their ass. Whatever. It's a great experience. It's what it was supposed to be. But it took that she saw him finally as vulnerable, that he wasn't walking into this like knowing everything, that he was vulnerable too, that he was afraid too, that there was something there, that they could be on equal footing. It wasn't just her that was vulnerable. He was also vulnerable. And so because she's able to see his vulnerability, okay, she's able to relax and say, okay, you know what? I'm good now. This is the person that I've been looking at. This is the person that I knew from lives before. I'm able to relax now and give myself fully to you. Okay, so that happens. They make love. She felt no fear, no shame. All is wonderful, and then morning happens. Next morning, sparks shooting. Where was that? Yes, well, indirectly, sparks shooting from their asses. Yeah. Body, mind, and heart blended, making her one with Uther as she had never been with Gorlois. She thought fleetingly that not even a child in its mother's womb could be so close. All that. That's sparks shooting out of their asses. Yes. Okay, so next morning. Ding! Next morning, she wakes up and again hears some confusion in the hall, the entry hall. Doesn't know what's going on. She races down and is met face to face with Gorlois, and stops her in her tracks. And she sees him as she did in the sending, a cut across his face, all that. She sees him in death, and she doesn't realize it for a minute. She's frozen, but he's not actually there. He is gone. He's dead already. And all the confusion and commotion that they heard was them bringing Gorlois' body back into Tintagel. So there's, of course, Merlin finally reveals that Uther is the one who was there. And there's a lot of confusion there. A lot of people are like, wait, what? Because Gorlois came in last night, right? What happened? So the Merlin says, Father Columba protested, no, this cannot be. Why? The Duke came home last night with a few of his men. He's asleep upstairs now in his lady's chamber. No. The Merlin says no. Ringing to the farthest corners of the court. He touches one of the torches, thrust it against Father Columba's torch, and then gave it to one of the soldiers. The oathbreaker, Duke, never came to Tintagel as a living man. Wonder how losing fingers kills him, right? Your lady stands here with your overlord and your high king, Uther Pendragon. You shall marry them today, Father. So he says to Father Columba, he was never here. That was your idiocy. Ha ha ha. And you are going to marry them. And he, of course, is like, what the fuck? Just tries to accuse them of sorcery and witchcraft. This foul illusion was your doing. Igraine says, you will not speak so to my father. And Merlin is like, look, I don't need your help. I don't need you to protect me. I can speak for myself. And he says, and it was no sorcery. You saw what you willed to see, your lord come home. Only your lord was not the oathbreaker Gorlois, who had forfeited Tintagel, but the true high king and lord who came here to take what was his own. And says to him, keep you to your priestcraft. You do your priestly shit. There is a need of burying, and when that is done, a nuptial mass for your king and for my lady, whom he has chosen queen. He chose her as queen. End of discussion. Shut the hell up. You're done. And I love the interaction here with the Merlin and Igraine is great, because Igraine has one last moment of like recognition, maybe, that Gorlois was not a terrible man, but that it just didn't go along with what fate had brought for both of them. She kneels next to Gorlois, and she says he was dead. He had met a traitor's death. He had richly deserved it, but he had loved her and he had died. A hand on her shoulder prevented her. The Merlin looked into her eyes for a moment and said gently, so it has come, Crane. Your fate, as it was foretold. See that you meet it with such courage as you may. So in other words, okay, Grane, first of all, means love. See, this is your fate, love. And this is like a father-daughter moment where they do not have many father-daughter moments. Remember that him as her father does not really come out a whole lot. They don't really treat each other like that. But there's a tender moment here where Merlin says, it's okay. This is what was supposed to be. All the worry and all the strife that I know you've gone through brought us to this point, and this is where we're at. See that you meet it with all the courage you can, which I think is such a great moment. Met a traitor's death. Yes. Okay, and so she goes to confession and they do the wedding. Then, the end of this chapter, which is this still chapter 8? We're in big trouble. I'm going to have to fly through the rest. Yes, it is. Shit. Okay, the end of chapter 8. I knew it. I got to keep going fast. The end of chapter 8 is Morgane Speaks. So this is the notes that Morgane has in her kind of diary here. From many years later, she speaks and speaks a little bit about what happened in her life during this time period. We see that she feels abandoned. She feels abandoned by her mother. She kind of has this love-hate relationship with her mother, who really is so in love with Uther at this point that she kind of is not the best mother after that. We see that she is all about Uther. And that's kind of her role in this, was really to pay attention to Uther and to make him feel good about himself and build him up to be the king that he needs to be. And what happens is Morgane really is kind of left to raise her brother. Her brother, Gwydion, is born from that first night. He's conceived the night that Uther comes into Tintagel and is born. We find out later that he's born a month early, which again makes things a little bit confusing because, you know, there's a possibility that people could say, are we sure that it's Uther's child and not Gwydion's? Because it's pretty, the timing is close. And Uther says later on something about, you know, my people are counting on their fingers. They're not stupid. So there's always going to be this question of if Gwydion is actually his son or is Gorlois' son. But she speaks of her brother Gwydion, who turns into Arthur later. She feels abandoned by her mother, who does not pay a whole lot of attention to her. She really starts to raise Gwydion on her own until she is, I believe it's 11. When Arthur is 6, so I think Morgaine at that point is 11 or 12, they are both fostered, which is a normal thing. We learn about Morgause, right? Morgaine feels abandoned. When he's 6, he gets Arthur goes to Ectorus, and she goes to Avalon. We learn Morgause is married to King Lot of Orkney. And so we did talk a little bit about that. We kind of saw foreshadowing that she was supposed to be with a king. And so she is married off to King Lot. There's a question there of, you know, Morgause is a flirtatious, kind of bitchy person. And she looks at Uther. And so there's a question there that Igraine maybe kind of wants to get rid of her a little bit anyways. And marries her off so that she's not quite so into Uther, right? There's a lot of information in this, the end of this chapter where we hear from Morgaine as an adult. I love how she instantly loves Vivian, right? She just knows that this is where she belongs. Okay, and that is the end of 8. Chapter 9, we see Vivian meditates. She uses the sight. She sets things up to use the sight, and she sees what? Exactly. Michelle got it already before I even asked the question. She sees Arthur, or Gwydion, possibly dead. In a flash that made her heart pound faster, she saw Morgaine weeping. In a second and terrifying flash of sight, she saw a fair-haired child lie senseless, motionless, dead or alive. He could be dead. So obviously in a terrible accident, something terrible. And she tells her women in waiting, get my shit together. We've got to go right now. I've got to try to save Gwydion, Arthur. It could go terribly wrong, and we need this kid, right? This is the kid that is supposed to join all of Britain together, and she's terrified that she might be too late. So that is the gist of chapter 9. Chapter 10, here we see Vivian travels to Corleone, which is where Uther's castle is. Uther does not reside at Tintagel. He has his own castle and everything at Corleone. And so Vivian travels to Corleone to find out what happened. Why? And she gets there, and what does she see immediately when she gets there is that she might be too late. As soon as she gets there, they tell her, you can't go and see your sister. Your sister is in waiting with Arthur, who's known as Gwydion at the time. And she says, take me in there right away to come and see him. He is lying in bed, possibly dying from a horse accident. He's thrown from horse that he should have never been riding. That was known to be very overactive, and his father's horse, as a matter of fact, Uther's horse. And so Vivian starts asking questions. Who does Vivian suggest could be behind Arthur's brush with death? They kind of go through and try to figure out who might have tried to take Arthur's life. And I think Michelle said it a little while back here. Yes, with her pack of sons, and tries to kill Arthur. Right, Vivian realizes that Morgause she's always been this jealous, power-hungry, yes. And so she thinks, it could possibly be Morgause trying to elevate her sons into a higher position, because Morgause has like 4 sons immediately. And so Vivian talks to Uther, and sorry to go so fast. It's hard when we have to do 4 chapters at once. This is the only problem with having to do this many, but Vivian talks to Uther to see about getting Arthur away from court, so that he's safer. So she starts talking about going to Avalon, and he won't let that happen. But she does talk him into fostering him someplace else, and don't tell a whole lot of people where you go to foster him. It turns out he's going to go to Actress, which we'll find out more about him in the coming chapters. And then she also, in talking to Morgane, realizes that Morgane has the sight, and talking to her, realizes that she really needs to take Morgane back to Avalon to do priestess training, that she probably needs to be a priestess, that's probably her path, and talks him into that also, which is not easy. They have a really good, I love Uther's back and forth here between Vivian and Uther is really good. There's a point where Uther says something, and Vivian looks him dead in the eye and won't look away, and she thinks, it's too bad I wasn't younger, because I would have taken this guy on. The fact that he's very strong. Not many people can be as strong as that with Vivian. She is impressed by Uther, and thinks, what a strong person. She could be the next Lady of the Lake. Exactly. Yes. Morgane could be the next Lady of the Lake. And she knows that she has the sight, and she thinks, she'll be miserable here, especially if they put her into the nunnery. And that's what finally does it for Uther. Uther finally gives in, because Vivian says to her, if you send her to the nunnery, she will kill herself. She will not survive that, because that is not for her. She is not that kind of a person. And Uther finally agrees, knowing that it's going to kill his wife, though, right? Because Igraine losing both of her children at the same time is not going to be an easy thing for Igraine to go through. Her children really are her life, in theory, even though she's okay in the end, because she's so in love with Uther that she's not really paying enough attention to them anyways. But in her head, she sacrificed a lot for her children. And I can see that, as a mother who always was working, there's always a hard line, and you always feel guilty. No matter what happens, you feel guilty about not spending the time that you really want to with them. This may be a bit exaggerated, but okay. And then anything else? I'm trying to remember. Chapter 10. So really, that is chapter 10, is that whole conversation that they have. She says, it's okay. You can take Morgane. And then chapter 11, we finally get to see Avalon. So chapter 11 is Vivian is taking Morgane through the lake. We see this great, it's weird that Uther and Igraine become Christian. Yes. And there's one, I failed to mention, there's one thing Igraine does as Gorlois died. When she stands up, she says, from here on out, I'm a Christian woman. Basically, she says, I will never again deal with all the bullshit. You have put me through all this bullshit back and forth from one husband to the next. And fine, I did that. but don't ask me to do anything else, because I'm done. I'm going to become Christian as much as I can and move forward as best I can in this life. I'm done with that shit now. Leave me the fuck alone. And you know, after all that she's been through, I can see feeling the pressure to be able to, she has to be queen now. And in a Britain that was very much trying to, the hierarchy of Britain was very much trying to turn to Christianity and turn away from the paganism. And so that's her feeling is, I did my part, motherfuckers. I've given all I can give. Now leave me alone and let me, you know, be the best kind of queen that I can be, and let it be at that. Yes, 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 yes. So we see, I love the passages about the boat. They get to the shores of the Tor of Glastonbury, and they see the priests land, and they hear the bells of the priests, and Morgaine thinks, you know, how the hell are we going to get to Avalon? I don't understand how this shit works. And Vivian raises her arms and releases the mist, and they arrive at Avalon, which is the only way at this point that you can get to Avalon, is to have the ability to release the mists so that you can find the Isle of Avalon. And she immediately falls in love with Avalon. She has tears of joy, like, I can't believe this place is here. How could I not have known it? She feels at home. Stephen foretold we would be rising up higher. Yay! The little picked barge paddlers. Yes, I love the little guys who are paddling the barge. So cool. They have hands that feel of leather, I think they say. They're so hard. They're like hard leather. There's some great passages about Avalon, and it's the first look at Avalon. So if you did not get a chance to read chapter 11, please go through and reread it really carefully, so that you really have the ability to look through Morgaine's eyes as she first sees Avalon. The apple trees and the Tor, the hill that is in a spiral of the goddess up to the top, just is absolutely beautiful. They sit down and have a talk. The last talk that they have as kind of aunt and niece, before she is inducted as a priestess in training, right? And Morgaine says, Vivian says, about her mark, the crescent mark on the forehead here. Vivian says, the mark has worn away with time. If you look closely, I think you can still see a little of it at the edge of my hair. And she says, yes, a little. What does it mean to be vowed to the goddess, lady? Who is this goddess? I asked Father Columba once if God had any other name, and he said no. There was only one name by which we could be saved, and that was Jesus Christ. But she broke off, abashed, ashamed. I'm very ignorant about such things. And Vivian says, and I love, this line is so important. This line is a line that I have in a lot of my quote books. And as a matter of fact, I'll be writing it in my Book of Shadows when we're done, because I've been writing my Book of Shadows a lot. To know you are ignorant is the beginning of wisdom, Vivian said, which to me is such a great line. You don't have to know everything. I never sit up here and purport to know everything. In fact, when I say I'm not sure, I'm a much better teacher when I say I'm not sure. I don't know. My first message didn't post, must have had the cursor in the wrong place. I said I worked on it and the computer works better than it has in months. Yay! We'll work on it again. Yay! I'm so glad, Leanne. Yay! That's such a great line. To know you are ignorant is the beginning of wisdom. And so again, that is something I will be writing in my book of shadows, because that is really the beginning of any sort of training that we're doing on this path that we're on, is to say, I don't know everything. And how wonderful to be able to say, I don't know everything. It's okay. None of us will ever know everything. Vivian, in all her years of training, doesn't know everything. And she is confident enough in herself and her abilities and her connection with the goddess that she's okay with saying, I don't know everything. It's okay. And we all need to start from that point. And that is such wisdom to be able to start at that point. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, Leanne. That is just truly the best way to start any journey, or to restart your journey, or to rededicate your journey, is to know that we are all ignorant. And so again, then we get this Morgaine Speaks at the end of this chapter, the last chapter 11 here, which talks of 7 years. She has been on the isle for 7 years, and how much she'd learned and how ignorant she was, and how far she gets, and then we will go from there. It's such a great, I don't want to know everything. Yes, that would take away the joy of learning. Absolutely. Steve and I were just talking today about something that hit him about the new moon, and then something that I was reading in the book kind of hit on the same topic. And it's so exciting when you figure out something new, when you are open to learning, and the universe starts kicking in stuff for you to open up new paths and new ways to look at your path. And I have learned a lot in the 115 days. I figured out today I have been on the road now for 115 days, and that has meant 3 different Sabbats. I went through Yule, Imbolc, and Ostara last week, and learning about my path and how different my journey is now from what it used to be, and I'm excited to share it with you all. It's funny that while I'm on the road, I have figured out that it's really hard to do videos on the road, because it's hard to schedule videos, because sometimes my internet is bad, and sometimes there's shit going on here that it's hard to schedule that kind of time. But it started out with me mistakenly going out to look at the new moon. Yes, poor Steven, it was so cute. He went out to look at the new moon, which of course would have been very difficult because you can't see the new moon because it's dark. But the energy is still there, boy. And I've gone out and looked up and thought, I wonder where exactly it is. And sometimes you can see the outline even a little bit, even if you can't see a sliver. By the time it hits the sliver, it's actually then is when it's called the new moon. The dark moon is when you can't see it. But how has traveling been on your marriage? Ooh, that's a good question. It's okay. It's funny. It hasn't changed my marriage very much, other than we don't have a whole lot of privacy. My dad is traveling with us, and we don't ever, did I say ever? We never have alone time, ever. So that's been a little difficult. But the marriage itself is good. We just start to go a little stir crazy, especially like if we have rainy days where we have 4 or 5 days in a row that's rainy. We're living in this small RV, and there's 3 of us there, and the walls kind of start to close in a little bit. Well, she's not killed him yet. That's right. He's still alive. That should tell you how well things are going. Right? Yes. But it is going good, and we have learned a whole lot about each other and about our path and where we want to go from here. From here, we are going to, next time you see us in 2 weeks, for book club anyway, we will be in Palm Springs, California. Not yet. We will be in Palm Springs, California in 2 weeks. And so because next Wednesday we will be traveling again, which I didn't realize, and I apologize. We're going to try to do 20 pages a week is about what I'm doing. Chapter 12 is a very long chapter, so that would have been one chapter only for next week. But then the next 3 are about 20 pages. So altogether, 4 chapters for 2 weeks from now, which will be April 5th. So 12th, 13th, 14th, and 15th will be April 5th. You should read up to chapter 15 for April 5th. And then if you want, I'll post it if you want. I just wrote it down here. This is the breakdown of the chapters. The following week will be chapter 16 and 17, then chapter 18 and 19, and then chapter 20, and chapter 20 finishes the book, the first book. There's technically four books in this book. In other words, like 4 major parts. The Mistress of Magic is the first part of the book, and chapter 20 finishes that, and the High Queen will be the next one. But we will only go through chapter 20, and then see the book 2 is the High Queen, and then we'll just kind of do a review of the whole Mistress of Magic first part. And then we'll go from there. I'm excited. We're doing well. So 2 weeks from today will be through chapter 15. And I will try to post it earlier. Again, this is the time that we came on tonight. Is the time that we will always be going on unless I say otherwise. So no matter what time comes up, because we're traveling, I never know if it's going to come up right or if I'm doing the time change right. If it says a different time, the time we came on tonight is the time that we will always be coming on, unless I say that we're changing it. So don't believe what it says unless you have heard us say, oh no, we're going to change that time. It's always going to be this time. It's just I have to figure out when that is based on where I am. Does that make sense? 14 watching. Yes, please click the thumbs up button. Please, please, please. In the meantime, I love you guys. I have so many things in the works. I have a video that I edited and actually uploaded and then realized that the sound was off, so I had to take it down, and now I have to try to redo it. So I will be starting to post more things, but it's slow going. I'm learning how to edit and stuff, so bear with me. But I will be starting the new stuff very soon. Actually, I have started the new stuff. I just had to take it down and start over, kind of. So, all right. I love you guys too so much. Say 7 Eastern Standard Time exactly. That we will be going on at 7 Eastern Standard Time, no matter where we are. So I love you guys, and thank you, and click that like button on the way out for me. And that wasn't too bad. It was still only an hour. I know it's hard because I don't want to skip a whole lot of things, and I think we kind of skipped through some of the chapters. Really, I do encourage you to reread the chapter 11, which is the first time we get to see the Isle of Avalon. I am going to be posting in Facebook a lot of the things. I have found some great Spotify playlists that are great when we're listening to this, that really have to do with magical workings and that kind of stuff. That is music, beautiful music and stuff for this kind of feeling that we get from the Isle of Avalon. The Isle of Avalon, that is explained in the book, became such a big part of my path when I first read this book years and years ago, that I really fell in love with that isle as a concept for my journey. And so I'll be posting a lot of stuff that kind of goes along with that. Okay? Yay, so excited. And I would like to maybe do a map of the Isle of Avalon, and so we can really look at what's around the isle and how that is different from what's at Glastonbury today and that kind of thing. All right, yay! I love you guys. Have a great, great night. And I'll see you next time. 2 weeks through chapter 15 in 2 weeks. Good night.